Well, here to discuss how the powerful elites in both parties want to control America at all costs and destroy the Trump family is the executive vice president of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump Jr. Thank you for being here, Don. Appreciate it. We were aghast yesterday. Your brother Barron turns 18, and we'll put the tweet up again. This guy, this former NBC executive, saying he's fair game. It's absolutely insane what they do, Don.
Yeah, remember, Barron at 18 is fair game, but Hunter Biden at 50, selling out our country is not. He's not political. It's the irony and the hypocrisy, frankly, of the other side is just disgusting. I mean, they're truly just disgusting people, but they've had the full weight and force of the mainstream media and big tech to allow them to say these things out loud. They've been doing it for quite some time while critiquing the other side. But what's going on in America right now is truly disgusting. But these are the quote unquote elites. These are what they actually think of you. They're saying this. We have to stop giving these people power because, honestly, I don't think a guy like this would do all that well in the real world if he wasn't protected by the full mainstream media.
Yeah, and they're not, no one's calling him out. And the reason why I say this is because, your father had a line about China using Mexico to dump, and that's a term that we use. It's to throw cars into another market below cost to ruin that market. And he called it a bloodbath, and it would be bloodbath for U.S. autos. And the left went apoplectic for a while, including, what's her name, Mika, Crazy Mika, and Joe. They were going nuts over this, the bloodbath comment, when it was pulled completely out of context. Yet this guy says Barron's fair game, and silence on the left.
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese are actually saying they were trying to create a bloodbath. They used that very word. The word has been used. It's a common form of expression, oftentimes as it refers to economics and the economic warfare that we're dealing with as it relates to China and otherwise. But of course, they will conveniently look at anything. Remember, Eric, our side, you never get the benefit of the doubt. If it's a 99.99999% probability that you meant the most obvious thing, which you obviously meant, Occam's razor, so to speak, zero chance, right? They'll never give it to you. When they do it, when they just abuse the same things, you're expected to give them all this benefit of the doubt. And we just haven't been playing the same game for far too long.
Take a look at this tweet. This also happened in the last couple of days. I mean, he's a washed up reporter, used to be ESPN, then he tried to do some political news. Keith Olbermann, there's always hope. Trump says he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated, and then Olbermann says there's always the hope.
Well, yeah, he's a lunatic. I mean, this guy's got the worst case of Trump derangement syndrome ever. You've seen some of his other takes. I guess he's probably just not relevant, so maybe he's looking for that relevance. But if you were a conservative, if you were a reporter, and you said this, say, about Barack Obama or someone else, you did it. You've seen that when people have made things that are, frankly, much less veiled than that, they are taken out. They are canceled. It is over. But again, we've been playing by different rules. We've allowed that to happen too long. And that's exactly why you need someone strong like a Trump to go in and fight the insanity of what this other side is. I mean, you look at what's going on the southern border right now. There's an invasion taking place in our country. They're beating up National Guard members. There's riots. And Joe Biden and the Democrats, because it's not just Joe Biden, right? This is Democrat policy. They just want to let these people in there, and they're going to be hitting attacking our children and doing all that, and that's fine. We live in bizarro world, Eric. I feel every day like, I'm in the Truman Show. Camera's going to fall out of the ceiling because someone's got to be punking me, but it seems like it's actually happening.
The left is such hypocrites, and I bring that up because for a couple of weeks when your father was being persecuted in New York about Mar-a-Lago's valuations and whatnot, and they kept saying $18 million. Your dad's like, are you out of your mind? $18 million for Mar-a-Lago, the parking place, one parking spot at Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. So for months they said $18 million. He's lying. Listen to what came out yesterday on CNN. Listen.
The property that you alluded to, Mar-a-Lago, potentially that could be something that could be sold quickly. I think the valuation is something in the hundreds of millions, and I think there could be a buyer for something like that. There's properties that are priced at 150 and 200 million that are nearby that. And Palm Beach is like the NVIDIA, of real estate. It's just shot up like a rocket.
So it went from $18 million to all of a sudden it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars when the narrative fits their purpose.
Listen, it's good to be a liberal. I wrote a book about liberal privilege. However they want to value, whatever makes sense for the narrative at the time is the way it's going to be worth. You heard that. There was 3-4 months of it's worth 18 million, and now it's worth hundreds of millions. Of course, it's worth hundreds of millions. To her point, there's 1-acre lots that are going for 150 million in Palm Beach. Mar-a-Lago's 20 acres on the ocean, on the intercoastal. It stretches all the way across both sides. And, let's just say that the home's rather stunning as well. And so they can do that. They can say whatever it wants, and they can change it entirely to suit their purpose. There's no irony to any of these things. It's, if it's worth 18 million, then that's good for the soundbite at the time. It's worth 18 million. If it's worth hundreds of millions the next day for a different purpose, it's worth hundreds of millions. And that's what's going on. And if you think it's going to stop at them going after Donald Trump, trying to seize his assets for what even some pretty liberal law professors in New York are saying a victimless crime. The alleged victim is testifying on our behalf that there was nothing wrong. It doesn't matter. They're willing to seize your assets. The people screaming about fascism are acting awfully a lot like the fascists. But it doesn't matter because you live in these sort of, one-party rule states. And that's why all of these things are happening there and not in places where there's actually a chance of you getting a fair trial. They have no interest in fairness. They have no interest in law. They will weaponize each and everything they possibly can to hurt their political enemies. And that's what they're doing here.
It's disgusting. I watch this, and I watch the liberal media, and they're salivating. They're salivating over these ideas, and they're talking about Letitia James is now snooping around Trump properties in New York, in Westchester, in Florida, snooping around in Manhattan. What she can get, or what she can seize. So here's the question. Respond to Letitia James snooping around Trump properties for seizing, and then let's talk a little bit about that $454 million bond.
Well, again, that you would go through this kind of thing in the process when you're still under appeals. Don't forget, about 2/3 of the judgment in this case was already ruled on in the appellate division. It was thrown out. This judge just conveniently ignored that. I mean, so when you're saying, well, you got a bond, let's call it an extra $300 million. You got points in and out on these things. Just the cost of doing that bond could be $30-40 million that you never get back. That's already been ruled on, but it doesn't matter. And they don't care because they say, hey, listen, if it's a penalty to Trump, make them pay it. Who cares? And we'll figure it out later. That's why there's no pause. There's no stay because they know that even if you get all of these things overturned, you don't get that back. And that's another way of them taking out Trump, make it more painful. It's money he can't spend on a campaign or other things. It is a political weaponization of our legal system. And it couldn't be more clear. And honestly, what's sort of amazing is I'm watching people who are pretty far left, who definitely don't like Trump, saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Eric, the problem is they're so brazen at this point, it doesn't actually matter. They don't care. They're just willing to do it, and they will do anything they can to hurt their enemies. They're going to keep doing this if we allow this to happen in America in 2024.
Very quickly, I know you got to go. What happens on Monday? Monday's the deadline to come up with the $454 million, $500 million bond. Is he going to? Are you going to, or does that ship sail?
Listen, we're going to, obviously we're working on that now. We're going to have to see what happens. These are things you see that sort of the testimony from people. These things don't even exist really, like in the real world, right? They say, hey, they exist for Enron, $1 trillion company that like. It's a little different when you're talking about private businesses, right? That's not, it's not the same. They understand that. They won't, again, they'll conveniently neglect that part of the equation. People don't just sit around with $500 million in cash. Where real estate guys, you have these things in assets, and then you see the valuation games that they play. So it's a never-ending sort of catch-22. But they're just fine with that. I mean, that's very clear. Everyone knows it, but it doesn't matter. You still have to deal with it.
I think they did it on purpose. I think they did it because they make it $1 trillion. I mean, just pick a number
why not?
that someone doesn't have in and just eliminate their ability for a fair appeal. Don Jr., thank you for your time. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Eric.